Welcome to the Ordinary Marathoner podcast.
Hello and welcome to the Ordinary Marathoner podcast. My name is Coach Scott. I'll be your host today. It is Tuesday, September 14th. I got a great show for you guys today. I got a great guest. Going to have him come on in just a minute. As always, you can find this in the back episodes of our podcast at our website, ordinarymarathoner.com. Check it out if you get a chance. You can find our podcast at most podcasting aggregators and or our YouTube channel. If you're watching the YouTube channel, do us a favor, hit that subscribe button. It really helps us out and we really appreciate it a lot. So thank you. Guys, again, I got a great guest today. He has been a member of the Team Ordinary, a follower of the Ordinary Marathoner podcast since way past I can remember, since the beginning, really. He's been a big supporter of ours, and I thank him for that. And we're going to, we were talking to him the other day, and I said, Stu, why don't we just have you on the show? And that being said, here he is, Stu Weiner. Welcome to the show.
Thanks, Scott. Good to be here.
You're a guy who you've been around the Team Ordinary crowd for quite some time. I can't remember for the life of me. You were like in the beginning.
Yes.
I can't. I mean, you had to be one of the first 50 people to sign up for our Facebook group. Do you remember kind of what brought you here, or is it just so long ago now? I mean, it's 5 years ago.
Yeah, I think we were connected through Twitter originally, and I think that's pretty much where it had grown from. And then I just, once the Facebook group was created, there was really at the time a small group of us who connected that way. And I believe really it was around 2016, 2017 that we connected, and it just grew from there. And it's really great to see how the group has grown. And you have a really good mix of runners and cyclists and triathletes and so forth. And it's really, the group is whatever you really want to make it. And it's been great. It's been really cool because I've met several of us in person. Like, I know Katie through our running club. So I met Katie through some of our running club events, and I've met a few, and we have a few others like Lorraine. I met when we were supporting a mutual friend during their virtual Boston run last year, and of course I have other connections through my running club who've joined the Facebook group as well, and it's really been a great group, and really I've really been inspired by some of the new members who are now just running marathons, which is great to see.
Yeah. And it's been that way for quite a while. I feel like, we get a good mix of really everywhere. We do have a little bit of a Boston, there's definitely a Boston centralized group. Like you're just north of Boston. Is that where you are?
I'm in Stoughton. So I'm south of Boston. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Katie then is probably just a little north then. Am I?
Yeah. Katie. I think Katie is a little bit south. I think she might be in Hanson, which isn't that far from me. Yeah. Yep.
Well, we did all get together. It's probably about 3 years ago now. It's still one of my favorite shirts to wear. I don't know if you still wear it, but we did the Marine Corps Honor Run.
Yep.
Which was a 5K. And really a great race.
Yes.
And I'm kind of upset that I haven't done it again.
Yeah. And that was great because I actually met, if you recall, I met one of my kids' assistant principals at the high school that way. And he knows Katie. And so then I remember after that 5K, which it's a great event, the Mass Fallen Heroes 5K, which is great. They have a great ceremony for fallen soldiers of Afghanistan and Iraq, and then we went to down to Castle Island afterwards, and we went to Sully's, which is you learned to one of the more famous places in South Boston, and I ended up coordinating with the assistant principal to do a prank on one of my kids. So my kids never got in trouble, fortunately, in high school. And so what I did is I said, I want you to call her down to your office, like as if she's in trouble, and then show her the picture of the selfie we took. And she was so upset about it because she thought she was in trouble.
Nice. Well, it's good that she doesn't get in trouble. That's
no,
you're doing something
no,
right.
No, they're both good kids. Yeah.
But that was a really good day that we had down there, and a really good race. My father was a Marine, so it meant a little more to me.
Sure.
And, I don't know. It was a great time down there, a great venue. And like you said, we went down to Sully's afterward, and that was really fun too, to all just hanging out. Something that we don't get a lot to do. It's one of these things where you meet people online, and you always say, oh, it'd be great if we could get together, and you never know if you actually were going to, but we actually did get a chance. And I do have to say that you are sporting the Team Ordinary gear today.
I am.
I believe you are the first guest ever to do so. The Ordinary Marathon shirt and the Team Ordinary hat. We both got the white hat going on. Too, is like we have the gray hats, which are the new ones. So the white one, now if you have the white one, that you're old school Team Ordinary.
Yes, exactly.
Actually, I got to tell you, over time, I prefer the white, I think, over the gray. I hate to say
I wear it regularly if I go out running. I have a whole rotation of hats because when the sun is reflecting off your head like it does for me, you need the extra layer of protection. So, and it's plus I like how it's light and it
holds up, right?
It's
amazing. I mean, I got a little, but it's definitely not, it's been through the wash a few times. I'm just shocked.
Oh yeah. Yep.
It's been really good. I do have to comment too that as a Jets fan, the background in your the background you've chosen is highly offensive. But I get it. It's really good. So let's, I think one of the things that you kind of lose flavor of when I see you, I meet you, I write, I read what you write on the page. I see the races as you do them. But what I haven't sort of learned, I think, about you is sort of how you started in running and what got you involved. Was this something that you've always done? Or is this something that you started later in life? And I know that, I think for me, the thing that stands out when you post is 46, 47 half marathons?
Yeah, I'm up to 45 half marathons, and I'm working towards 50, and so I'm not sure if I'll get to it this fall, but I'll get close to it. And so I've done 10 marathons, and they were all really in my 40s. I didn't start running until my kids were in middle school, and the running kind of took shape more after I did a fitness boot camp in 2007. The gym I belong to, really and this is how kind of fitness has evolved, is back then the boot camps were really starting to take hold, and now it's pretty much evolved into CrossFit and HIIT classes, and now you're seeing all these. I noticed recently there's just a boot camp gym in like a couple of towns over from me, but at the time, this is like the game in town, and there weren't many boot camps around. And so a guy who was a neighbor of mine at the time said to me, "Hey, you should try this boot camp. It's really different." And then I had a friend of mine she's a trainer at the gym. I remember coming up to me like before I started it, and she said, "Okay, I want you to know, don't be nervous. It's really intense, but like the first day is testing." And what they would do is the first day they would kind of test what your fitness level is, and you run a mile and see whatever your time was. And so based on that time mile, they put you into groups, and it was all based on the military. So you had the Marines, you had an elite group, you had the SEALs, you had all these different levels. And so over the course of the summer, I pretty much moved up to the top group. And then when I got up there, I realized, man, I'm competing against triathletes, marathoners, and I haven't even run a half marathon yet. I even haven't really run a 5K at that time. I was still kind of in the early stages of really building. And so then I realized when I was trying to keep up with those people, I couldn't keep up with them. It's just like I'd be sucking wind. And this was just going around a middle school field or going down around a Babe Ruth field. And so it really helped me realize that, hey, this is really great. And I need to kind of continue doing it. And so in between the first and second year of doing this fitness boot camp, I started running in the winter. And
it's hard to do in New England.
Right. Yes. Yes. Because as you know, you need layers. And again, this is before I really built out my winter wardrobe, if you will. So I was doing the running and it's funny, I was doing the running to train to keep up with these people. And so they really pushed me. And then I started doing like circuit, they call it HIIT now, but it was circuit training at the time. And so then out of that, I slowly started running short distance races. I did, 5-milers, I did 5Ks, and eventually moved up to 10K, and then 2011, which was really the first year where I started running a lot of races, and I ran my first half marathon. It was the Providence Rock and Roll Half, which was really cool because they had bands at every mile. And I was training, but it wasn't like an organized training, if you will. I was running, and I kind of talked to a friend of mine who I said, how much should I do here? What should be my longest run? And so I was kind of like flying by the seat of my pants. And then
it seems to happen to a lot of people when they start. It's like, you don't know what you're doing. You
don't.
I think
right.
One of the I think the sad parts is a lot of people think, all right, I'm such a beginner that I don't, I'm not worthy of coaching or training or training. Let me just do what I want to do. And they kind of put their head down. When really, I think that they could get a lot of benefit out of doing a little more research. And I'm the same way. I did, just roll out of bed and do a run, and then just try to do a little bit further than the day before. But you can do so much more if I'm going on a little tangent.
Yeah, it's true. I at that time, my older sister, she had done several marathons, and so I would ask her questions, or a friend of mine I ran with, I would bounce questions off her. And then what happened is I ended up signing up for the half marathon with a couple of friends. But at this time they were doing the sprint triathlon. So they were a little bit further along. And so I ran with one of them. And here's another thing. When we do a long run, we'll carry some form of nutrition, whether it's goo gels or if it's some whatever hydration you bring. I wasn't training with any of that. I didn't touch any of it. And I remember I got around 10 and a half miles into the 11 into the half marathon, and my legs were killing me. And she had a goo, and she gave me a goo. And because she said, do you have any goos on? I said, no, I didn't bring anything with me. And so eventually, she gave me one or two, and that got me through to the end. And then at that point, it's like, you run your first half and you think about, okay, like how can I build on this? And so
there's only one more step after that.
Right. Yeah, exactly. There's like one more step. And I remember it was absolutely pouring out at that event. I equated it to, with the part in Forrest Gump when he's walking through the rain, and it's like, and the rain's going in all different kind of directions and so forth. That's exactly what it was like. It was coming from the side, and then it would come from the front, and then it would just downpour, and I chafed really bad. And again, like I didn't no anti-chafing.
Don't know. Right.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I just remember I was between my legs hurting and the chafing. It was a tough day, but I felt afterwards I felt actually pretty decent. I wasn't awful. And I remember, when we were driving home, my wife drove home. And just to show again, you evolve. I was driving myself home from marathon. So it's like, whereas my first half, I said, yeah, you got to drive me home today.
Yeah. Oh, I know that feeling. I remember my first half, like trying to drive out of the parking lot, and there was so much traffic that anytime I had to stop the car for traffic, I had to put it in park because I didn't think that my foot had enough strength left in it to hold the brake pedal down.
Yeah. Right.
But I had to sit in that car for a good half hour before I felt like I had enough strength in my legs to just drive.
Yep.
I remember stopping at Dunkin' Donuts and getting like a large iced coffee. And before I even walked to the car, it was gone.
Yeah,
I was
right.
just in the parking lot. I was like,
Yep.
it was gone.
Yep.
I didn't know anything about hydration. I remember I would spit out half the water I would drink because I was afraid I would cramp, because that was like a thing back when I was younger. It's like, don't drink too much water, you're gonna cramp.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And now I drink tons of it, and I never cramp. So,
yeah.
But that's like along the same lines you're talking about the goo. With you're sitting there and you're like, I remember sitting there and looking at people having goo gels at the starting line, thinking, why do they need that? Like, this isn't a marathon; it's only a half. And then you get to mile 10, mile 11, you're like, oh, maybe that's why.
Right. Yeah, I know. And then it's like you get through the first 8 to 9, you're like, oh, you only have 4 to go, but it's in my early running days, it was the 9 to 11, which was the tough part.
Yeah.
You would just hit a wall between 9 and 11. And
So was it after this very first half marathon that now you finish it, it's pouring rain. It sounds like you kind of had a little bit of a miserable time with the chafing and the pain. Obviously you got the medal, you feel good about yourself. How long did it take? Was the next one, all right, let's do another half? Or were you already thinking, let's try to find a full?
So I was doing mainly halves first. So I did one. So my next half was probably about 6 months later. I think it was around maybe less than that. It was after the first of the year in 2012, and then I had then a friend of mine, her and her husband had run Boston before for a charity. She forwarded me an email to say, hey, would you this is a good charity. If you're ever thinking about running Boston, this is a good one to consider. And that was the 2012 Boston. And so that was really my first marathon experience, was that marathon, which, oh, by the way, was one of the hottest on record. It was like 90, it ended up being around 90 degrees. And
they have weird weather for that race almost every year. If it's not severe downpours, it's like it's very strange. It's completely unpredictable.
Yeah, it was. And it's funny because I was when I was training through that season, it wasn't really a normal cold winter. It was kind of like on the warm side, like particularly as we got into like February, March, and I ran for Mass Ioneer, and I remember going to a team meeting in Boston, and it was like in March, and I remember how warm it was, and I had the windows, my car window rolled down as I was going down Storrow Drive all the way into the hospital. I started thinking, what if like on race day it's warm like this? It's like everything kind of, I have to think, whatever your plans are going to go out the window. And so I went into the meeting. We're talking with the trainer about, our training and so forth. And I said, hey, I'm driving down here today and I'm already thinking that, what if it's warm like this? Like, what do you do? Like, what is the approach? And he said, basically, whatever your plan is, it goes out the window, because you need to consider the warm weather, because you're going through the winter your body is not conditioned to run in this yet. And so, and then lo and behold, came like that weekend, and I was, looking at the weather, because as you know, going into an event, you're monitoring the weather on a daily basis. And in the early days of racing, and whether it's marathon or half marathon, you really get anxiety over the weather. You start thinking about it, and it's now playing the mental game, despite how well or bad your training goes. So what happened is, so usually what all the charities do is that weekend leading into the marathon, they have like a gathering for the team, and it's more like appreciating all your support and your fundraising and representing the hospital, right? So we were in the lobby of Mass Eye and Air, and we were going, and I wanted to show my wife, hey, this is who I'm raising all the money for. This is like, this hospital is a monopoly when it comes to eye, ears, and throat. And this is where people come from all over the world. So part of it going on the tour was selling her that this is who I'm raising money for. This is why I did it. And the training coach comes in, and the first words out of his mouth was, I never had to put together a presentation like this in the 5 years that I've been the coach of Mass Eye and Air. And so, then comes the actual presentation. And those were the first words that came out of his mouth. And I was actually, at this point, I was standing up, walking around, and, kind of like around where we were sitting. And out of the corner of my eye, when the words came out of his mouth, my wife turned around and looked at me with this look of fear. And I purposely didn't make eye contact with her, because I already knew she's nervous. She's got to go into Boston, which she's already nervous about.
Right.
And so he just basically said, first words, whatever your goal was, if it was a PR, or if you were expecting to break 4 hours, forget about it. I'm telling you right now, because the conditions tomorrow are such that you just need to finish. And that was the message. And so, so it turns out it was a long day for me. I ended up going to Mass General because I was dehydrated.
Wow.
And
you weren't the only one.
No. Oh no, the ER was filled with people. Yeah. But and so what happened is, we had at the time a family member who was a doctor at Mass General, and my brother-in-law called ahead to say, hey, we need to take him in because he's dehydrated. And I got right in. And so three IVs later, I was
just sucked them up, huh?
I was good to go.
But did you wind up finishing? Like, what happened?
I did.
So you made all the way through.
I made it. I did it in over 6 hours, but I was walking too, so I would run, I would walk. I took everything that I could get. Kids were handing out those little juice pouches, and people were handing out freeze pops and water, and you name it, I took it. And then I ended up running for them again next year. And I saw the coach, and we were talking beforehand for the first meeting. And he said, Stu, there was nothing that you could have done, no matter what you put into your body that day. It didn't matter, because the conditions were such that your body could not really sustain that, given the conditions.
Sure.
And
that heat, it just sounds like, that's the good advice. That's the coach's advice, is you gotta just forget the goals, forget the, and just try to survive it and stay hydrated and stay focused and listen to your body, that kind of thing. But man, it's that sounds like a tough one.
It was, but you know what, from in all the races that I've run, I've always take something away from them. And you always, that's the lesson. Like you learn something from every experience, whether you run in humidity, whether you run in rain, and even in dry conditions, even if, you might take something in terms of food or drink a day or two before that might affect you. You're always learning from every experience and from every race. And you might even go back and say, hey, listen, maybe I need to, have a different approach to training. And maybe I didn't do enough of like any tempo runs, or maybe I didn't do enough track workouts, or maybe I pushed it too hard, and maybe that's why I get hurt. Because now recently, that's been my bugaboo, is I've been having these little this annoying injuries that set me back a couple of weeks, and not enough to knock me out for months, fortunately, but enough to affect my training.
Sure.
So now, like even now, I look at to say, all right, maybe I need to cut back on this and do something different. But I mean, I always have incorporated cross training into my routine, because to me, that's the way you stay healthy and prevent the injuries from being as bad as they can be.
Yeah, and that's a good point too. And I tell you, what's one of the things about triathlon that I like is that you do get, even though it's all still same plane, right? Biking,
Yep.
running, it's all still similar plane. But one of the things I certainly noticed, I think, from running is sometimes, even you're just running down the street and there's like a little turnaround. Man, if you have to stop on a dime and make a really tight turn,
Yep.
that puts a lot of pressure on those knees. Those knees, and the legs are just used to pumping up like pistons and not going off plane. It's just it feels like, even if you don't get injured, it feels like that's a moment
Yep.
where something bad can happen.
Yes.
And it's just because you're consistently on the same plane. But that's why the cross training comes in so good, because it kind of gets you to do some work on the sides of those, those knees and those tendons and the joints, so that you can you can avoid those injuries.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah.
So Boston Marathon. Go ahead.
Yeah, even with like you talk about those races where it's, you have to, it's like a out and back and you have to take that turn. One thing I've learned is I never take the corner sharp. I always go wide. Yeah. And I go wide to the outside, and that prevents some of those like pivots that you can often do when you do that.
Right. You're not just like stopping at the cone and turn. Yeah.
Yes.
That would be dangerous.
Yep. Yeah, I know.
And you might cost yourself 2 seconds by doing a little bit wider, but I think kind of like that's kind of like the old man in us, I think, right? It's like,
I know.
I want to save those knees. Yeah. I want to be doing this for a longer period of time. I'd rather doing this for the next 10 years than the 2 seconds it's going to save me by pivoting tightly. All right, so Boston Marathon was number one. I feel like you've done that often.
Yeah, I've done I've done 4. My last one was in 2017. And I've done the others I've done some more local ones. I've never traveled I'd say out of New England, if you will. Right. I've pretty much kept it local. So is Bay State, and I've done Cape Cod Marathon a couple of times. I've run Providence. I've done Hartford, which is great. I love the Hartford course. It's a great course.
Yeah, it was one of my favorites too. I said, I met a bunch of people that are doing that race. It's coming soon. It's like in a month from now. Mm-hmm. And yeah, one of the more underrated marathons, I thought. It just was really fun, and the course wasn't really very hilly. There was a couple spots, but nothing hard. And I PR'd there. I felt really good about it. And I remember that was one of those races you mentioned before, running the marathon and driving home. So I ran I ran that after I had DNF'd Phoenix, and I ran that race hoping to PR, and I PR'd it, and I called my wife as soon as I finished, and she said, "What happened? What's wrong?" I didn't believe I could possibly finish in the amount of time. I'm done. I PR'd. I finished.
I'm good.
And hop in the car and drive home. It's Yeah, that's as you get experience and as you get, I think used to the pain and the thresholds of pain, you're less likely to kind of put yourself in that I can't walk, I can't drive mode, I think. But
yep.
It all happens. I'm glad. What's it going to take to get you out of New England for a marathon?
I don't know. I'm gonna try and talk to my wife into now like the kids are out per se. We've actually been we've done thinking about doing a few things. Like we're going out. We're going to a couple of weddings out of state coming up, and so I've eyed obviously Marine Corps in Philly, and so maybe next year, next fall, Marine Corps, and so if I can find someone who will kind of, maybe like my sister will go down with us because she's done Marine Corps before, to keep my wife company or something, and because I mean the great, as you know, you've done it, and it's and we've been down to DC before, so we've done a lot of the touristy things and so forth. So of course I like to do New York. So again, I have to. That's the thing. I gotta pretty much coordinate to get other people to go, so you can get around, so forth. So, but yeah, I mean, there's obviously others that I think about. Chicago, and so, but I'll just need to find people to go with me.
Yeah. Well, I tell you, you're not. I mean, it's not like you live in a bad place. Boston's not such a bad race either.
No. No, but there's there are a lot of good local ones around here too.
Sure.
So which has been good. I've been up to Vermont. I've run Vermont City, which is a nice one. It's Memorial Day weekend. That's a good one. So hopefully, soon, maybe next year, and I'll do one out of state and out of the New England area. So yeah.
I feel like you've been having a pretty good year. I feel like I continually see you doing new races and keep putting up good times, and are you feeling good about where your training is now? And
yeah. So I'm doing the Clarence DeMar half in a couple of weeks, and it's funny. It's when you're in the heart of it, and you're so focused on your training and your races, you don't really get a chance to really appreciate what you've done. And that's how I've looked at things. Like I was when I did the half in Connecticut, the one down in New London, Connecticut, back in August, I was sitting with a friend of mine, and I said, yeah, this is my 45th. And he said, yeah, I'm close to that. And I said, you know what? I don't think I've appreciated what I've done. And I think I've done a lot of good stuff. And, between the marathons and the half marathons, and I've done, over the course of the years, I've pulled off some good 10K and 5K times. And I said, I got to start appreciating this more, and know that, 10, 20 years out, when I'm in my 60s and 70s, I'm going to look back and I said, yeah, okay, I did some good stuff. So I'm trying to appreciate it more now. And to your point is, it's been a good year. As I look back and I said, the training's been going good. I've done over the last couple of years some cool virtual races, more like military theme. Like one I did was, it was the Korean War 5K, 160-mile virtual race, and you can do the 160 miles however long it takes. And to your point, like you ran the Mass Fallen Heroes for your dad, who was Marine. My dad served in Korea, so that had a lot of meaning to me. And so I did that, and it was a really cool medal. It had really a picture of Korea, and it was called 160 miles because that's the length of the 38th parallel, like the dividing point that splits the north from the south. And last year I did a U.S. Army 5K, 10K. I did the 10K distance again for my dad. He was in the Army, and so he often talked about Korea and his experience there. He wasn't in the infantry. He worked in communication. So we did a lot of really the support stuff that really everyone had, everyone has a role in the military. Everyone has a job to do. And that was his. But me and my brothers watched the show MASH growing up. And so like my dad would watch the shows, and, when there was the episodes that were during the winter, and the winters were unbearably cold, and he would look at that and he would say, God, I just knew I never want to be that cold again. And then the summers would be unbearably hot. And he would look at, and there were some episodes he couldn't watch just because it would bring back those memories.
Right.
So, yeah. So like yourself, I like to do, I've enjoyed taking advantage, if you want to call it that, with the pandemic, of doing these virtual races and staying engaged.
Yeah.
Because I know runners who they dropped off the map because the pandemic did that. There wasn't anything.
And really, that's what I was going to say. It was like it's almost a more unique story, I think, that you've been able to kind of keep doing it and go after it, because I feel like a lot of people, some people were able to kind of train without any racing for a year, and then it's almost a 50-50 proposition whether or not you're able to keep up with it or not.
Yeah.
But you kind of picked up right where you left off, which I thought was great.
Yeah. Thank you.
And you've experienced some ups and downs at times. Yep. I mean, just like any other run, it's not like you've gone, but you keep coming back after it. And I think, it's like, and like you said, we all get older, and there's always going to be in the back of your head. But I keep going to races, and I look over next to me, and there's a guy who's older than me, finishing way ahead of me. So you can never tell. And I've been to a few in-person races this year, and definitely you look around the people, you're running with younger kids now. And now you're like, I'm starting to creep into like the older group and so forth. But even though I may not run as fast now, I've always, committed to saying to myself, I'm going to continue doing it no matter what. It's like, 5Ks. I used to run between 22 and 25 minutes, which is phenomenal for me. And now they've kind of veered a little bit higher. But if I have a day where I do it like in under a 9-minute mile, to me, that's okay. That's where I'm at. And I think that's, you said it. You got to learn to accept what the new normal is. And as hard as it is, and it has been, I've come to the realization that you're healthy, you're still doing it. There are people in this world who haven't achieved anything that you've done, whether it's for whatever reason. Okay. I'm still doing it. There are days, it's like you're finding out. There are days you're going to feel better than others. And that's just, that's what it is, I was down with a couple of friends of mine at Ironman Muscle Man, and similar age as me, they're probably a little older. And they said, we were talking about it, and just, it's not only as you get older, it's harder to make gains on your speed, but it's even harder to hold on to them when you sit out for a week, or it feels like you lose them so much faster. It takes you 6 months to increase by, maybe a half a minute in your pace. And then, if you don't work out for 2 weeks, it goes away. You lose it really quickly. So it's the sad thing of age, I guess, but you could use it as a motivator too, and keep moving ahead,
Yep. So, I mean, that's really what it is. Like, I was training for the Clarence DeMar Full, but then I got a foot injury, so I was down for a couple of weeks, and I was doing other things, but I really couldn't run on it. And then I came back, and then I overdid it, and then so I just said, you know what, it's the reality is, I would rather do all the training and do the full, and if I lose time, I don't want to make it to be a really labor a marathon. So I decided, you know what, switch to the half. You'll still, achieve something. You'll get something out of all the training that you've done, and you go from there. And so we'll try it again.
Yeah, and I find, and I have some clients that feel the same way. Actually, I find that once you've done it and you've checked the box, your appreciation becomes a lot more. Not only you want to enjoy the day, you don't want to survive the race. Surviving it's one thing if it's your first race, you've never done it before. Surviving the race, getting to the finish line is a noble thing to do. But sometimes you hit a certain point and you're like, I just want to enjoy the day. I want to go out there. I want to give it what I got.
Right.
But I don't want to finish and cross that line being like hating the sport that I've just done for the last year, 2 years, 3 years, whatever it may be.
Yeah.
I don't want to hate the sport that got me here. I want to kind of embrace it and enjoy the day for what it is. And whether that means I run 26.2 or 13.1, if it's the difference of having a good day or a bad day, just give me the good day.
Hey, give me the good day. Yeah, exactly. Yes, exactly. So.
I hear you with that. So you have the Charles DeMar half. Anything else this year that we got to look out for?
Yeah. So I'm lining up a few. I have my running club does a half in December, the Frosty half, which I've done in the past. So that I'm signed up for that. Signed up for a 5K this coming Sunday, which is it's a really special race because it's called the Jeff Coombs 5K, and Jeff Coombs was on flight 11 on 9/11, and his wife has a foundation that she is committed to doing this race. And this year is the last year. This is the 20th year of her doing it. And so this is it. And it's really a special event. And I've done it a couple of times. And so I wanted to do it this last time. And there'll be a lot of people from my running club there supporting it. And the spread after the race, we talk about how we measure races on the spread, like you talked about, that the Ironman in Maine where the sandwiches look really skimpy. You're like, come on, really? I could have got hit. I could have got bit by a shark out there. This is what you got to do. And the spread for this race is like you would have thought you just ran a marathon. And there's like a lot of local businesses that sponsor and they have everything. I mean, they have pizza, they have hot dogs, they have hamburgers, they have, stuff for the kids. They whatever you could think of, they got it. And it's just a really impressive event. So I'm doing that with a few people from my running club. So that'll be fun. And my sister and I are thinking about doing a half up in Newburyport, which is like going up towards Gloucester, that area.
Sure. I've been there actually. It's kind of like a little vacation town. Yeah, I judge towns. Yeah, I judge towns by if they have more than one store that sells fudge. That's always like
that's a good gauge.
It's always the mark that it's like a vacation town.
yeah. So I have a few other halves that I'm teeing up, and then we'll evaluate and see what will be on the schedule for 2022.
Well, I'm interested to see when you get to number 50. I think that'll be a notable achievement and something we should all celebrate when you get there, whether it's this year or next. Definitely keep us filled in on that one, because I think that's an incredible achievement. That's when you think about it. I don't run I haven't run any halves this year, but in a good year, I'll run 2 or 3 halves, and you've really been after it, man. You've been after it since 2011, 2012?
2011, yeah.
So you're talking about a 10-year span, and you're close to 50, closing in on 50 here. So that's really impressive. And listen, Stu, I want to thank you so much for all that you've contributed to our group over the years. And I don't know, keep it going, man. Keep it going.
I will.
It's
I
good
will.
to see.
Thanks.
Thank you
Yeah,
for
it's a
coming
good
on the
group.
show.
Yeah, it's a good group, and I enjoy seeing, like I said, the new folks who are now they're training for marathons, and and you guys with your Ironman training, and one day I'll get a bike and I'll get on a Zwift ride with you guys, and I'll find a spot in my basement down here to put the bike and jump on board.
Awesome. That sounds great, Stu. That would be awesome. We've had a couple people kind of, ask me questions about bikes, and some people are kind of on the fence. Every time I post a ride, I'm always thinking like, am I scaring away the runners? Like, do they, because they see too much bike? But it seems like most of the time it's like, hey, how do I get involved, or how can I get invited?
Yeah. I mean, I like doing I post about my rides on the spin bikes at the gym. So I can easily transition to a bike because I clip in, I do the classes. So they incorporate hills, I incorporate speed. I can probably make that transition pretty easy once I get up to wanting to spend the money to get the bike.
And that's the thing, right? It's that initial cost. I tell you, so we were talking about my wife was like, oh, I want a Peloton. And I'm like, well, why would you get a Peloton? You get the bike and you get the trainer, same thing. And except for the bike, you can take outside and go for a ride outside. You can't, no one's on the Peloton outside.
Right.
But we'll see. We'll see what she winds up getting. But she has the bike. We just need to get the trainer. So we'll see.
Yep.
There
you go.
Anyway, thanks for coming on the show. I look forward to that if you get the bike. I'd love to have you on the rides. Come to our Thursday night trivia rides. They're cool. Tons of fun.
Yep.
And
awesome.
Looking forward to cheering you on again as you go to the Charles DeMar, and also as we head towards 50, whether it be this year or next.
Thank you. It's been great being on, and of course talking with you, and look forward to many more years with the group.
Yes, lots of great things to come, I think,
Definitely.
for you to come. And thanks again, Stu Weiner, for coming on the podcast.
You bet.
All right, we're going to wrap it up there. No problem. Anytime. If you want to come back on, we should talk about your 50, I think, when you get there.
Thanks.
But thanks, Stu, again, for coming on the show. And great chat. And I know I kept you here. Wow, we did pretty good. Closing in on an hour, and a good conversation. So thank you so much. And everyone, remember, every day, I'm forgetting my own tagline. Every day is an ordinary day unless you make it extraordinary. So get after it, guys.